With a bang, the enamel jar exploded at my feet. Scalding tea splashed everywhere and soaked the hem of my pants. As for me and Meng-jun, you either endure it or move out. Stop permanently plastering that sour look on your face for everyone to see. If you can still live through this life, fine. If you can't, get Meng-jun a new place soon. Bayu stood with one hand on his hip, his dark green military uniform highlighting his formidable aura. But the disgust shooting from those eyes pierced like an ice spear. Behind him stood Su Meng-jun, head bowed in tears, looking frail and storm-beaten, a sight far more pitiful than me, the yellow-faced woman who always moves around the stove, reeking of oil smoke. I looked down at the shattered porcelain at my feet, and the last warm spark in my heart was completely chilled the moment my brain rebooted. In the last life, I endured. I thought as long as I did well enough, as long as I tended to the blind mother-in-law comfortably, and raised my perfectly healthy 100-day-old son, Bayu would surely see my goodness. But what happened? Not long after Su Meng-jun came in, I became their label, a poison woman obstructing true love. In the end, I toiled to death in despair, and even after death I couldn't enter his family ancestral tomb. If I'm to live this life again, let those days of resentment pass away. Whoever loved whom? I steadied my breathing, and my voice was so cold that even I was surprised. Bayu, remember what you said today? Bayu clearly didn't expect me to agree so promptly. He paused, then snorted coldly. Don't play tricks with me. If you've really figured things out, hurry and clear out the west room for Meng-jun. She's frail and can't stand dampness. Su Meng-jun weakly tugged at Bayu's sleeve, her voice delicate. Bayu, don't say that. Sister-in-law must also be feeling sad in her heart. I didn't watch them act, and I turned around and went into the room. In the room, the blind old woman sat at the head of the Kong, closing her eyes and feeling for the needlework, muttering curses. Lin Xiao, you dead fish eye. Didn't you hear Bayu speak? Meng-jun is a guest. You must treat her like your own sister. Our family doesn't support freeloaders who eat without working. Hurry up and get to work. Looking at this old woman who had served me for 10 years, I felt only irony in that moment. I kept silent and directly pulled out from under the bed cabinet the organizational transfer order I had hidden for a long time. It was an emergency transfer order issued by the Military District Research Institute half a month ago. I came from a scholarly family and was supposed to be admitted to university on scholarship. But for Bayu's so-called future, I stayed in this poor mountain village to be a family member. Now, this transfer order is my only lifeline. I tidy my clothes efficiently, and I only took my own payslip and documents. As for those heavy quilts and the pots and pans, I didn't move any of them. When I stepped out of the inner room, my son Xiaohu was lying in the cradle crying loudly. He was probably hungry. His small face reddened from the strain. Bayu was sitting at the table peeling peanuts for Su Meng-jun, and upon hearing the crying, he snapped, Lin Xiao, are you deaf? The child is crying and you don't feed him. All you do is eat for free all day. Meng-jun is here. Can't you behave like a proper elder sister-in-law? I stopped in my tracks and looked back at him once. That gaze carried no grievance, no anger, only a kind of calm as if looking at a dead person. Bayu, since you think Su Meng-jun is good at everything, then this house will be handed over to her in the future. I walked to the door, then suddenly remembered something. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the key, and precisely threw it into the pile of peanuts on the table. What do you mean? Bayu frowned, finally sensing something was wrong. Literally. I picked up the small luggage bag in my hand, pushed open the courtyard gate. Bayu, we are getting a divorce. Su Meng-jun can live in this house for as long as she wants. I'll make room. Lin Xiao, stop right there. Are you crazy? Bayu suddenly stood up, took a few steps to the door to block me. What kind of divorce? You're capable of talking nonsense like this. Isn't it just letting Meng-jun move in? Do you have to pin me down so hard? The child isn't weaned yet. My eyes aren't good. Who will take care of them when you're gone? Whoever wants her to live there will take care of her. I stared straight into his eyes, my tone calm to a terrifying degree. You are the captain. You command hundreds of people. Changing a diaper, making medicine, should be no problem for you. As for the child, isn't Su Mingjun kind? Let her feed. You know Mingjun has never given birth. Where would the milk come from? Beiyu's face turned iron blue with rage. Then that's your problem, not mine. I pushed away his hand with surprising strength. Beiyu staggered, obviously not expecting that I, who had always been as gentle as water, would suddenly unleash this kind of power. The outside wind was very cold, blowing on my face but making me feel unprecedentedly awake. Lin Xiao, you step out that door today, and from now on don't bother to come back. Beiyu roared from behind, his voice making the snow on the trees shake and fall in a flurry. I didn't look back at all, striding toward the jeep at the village entrance. That was the vehicle sent by the military district to pick up technicians. I had arranged it specifically for today. Sitting in the car, I watched the family compound in the rearview mirror shrink smaller and smaller, and the large stone that had weighed on my heart for more than 10 years was finally crushed completely. Su Mingjun, you don't want the title of this regimental commander's wife. You don't want this man. In this life, I'll give you everything. The blind mother-in-law, the nagging younger sister-in-law, the wailing and stubborn child, and that man who is inherently selfish and only knows how to issue orders, all these blessings you must grasp firmly. The roaring sound of the jeep engine completely drowns out Beiyu's furious shouting behind me. I lean against the cold leather seat, watching the red brick cottages retreat past the window, and inside my heart there is a stillness like dead water. Engineer Lin, if we go now, the regimental commander's family area. Tuan doesn't have any objections. Right. The little soldier driver, Xiao Wang, glances through the rearview mirror at me, a bit uneasy. After all, I left so hastily with so little luggage. If he's got an objection, he'll just have to hold it in. I calmly press the red stamped dispatch onto my knee. It's a military district secret mission. Family matters must take a back seat to official duties. The old He family mansion probably exploded into a commotion by now. I know Beiyu too well. As a squad leader, he's used to giving orders outside, and it's only natural for him to think I am his serving girl once I'm home. In his eyes, my request for a divorce is nothing more than an upgraded version of a rural woman throwing a tantrum. He believes I would at most stay one night at a guest house, and by tomorrow morning I would surely slink back home to cook breakfast for the whole family. But he forgot that in this household, what's indispensable isn't me, but that blind, sharp-tongued mother-in-law and the child still in swaddling clothes. Woo-wah. At this moment, Beiyu was stiff in the living room, and Xiaohu in his arms cried until his throat was hoarse. Su Mingjun stood to the side, hands twisting a handkerchief, looking anxious but at a loss. Beiyu, is the child hungry? Should I go warm up some rice slurry? Su Mingjun tentatively spoke, her voice as soft as willow fluff in the wind. Rice slurry. The child is only 3 months old. Lin Xiao usually feeds milk. Beiyu's temples throbbed from the crying, and he patted the child's back awkwardly, which made the child cry even louder. Lin Xiao, this crazy woman, actually threw the child down and ran away. Oh dear. My grandson, the blind grandmother, leaning on the wall, groped out from the inner room, sank to the ground and slapped her thighs while wailing. Beiyu, look at the good wife you married. This is going to kill our He family. Mingjun, you'd better think of a way quickly. Don't let the child cry anymore. My heart is going to break. Su Mingjun hurried forward to support her mother-in-law. But how had she ever experienced such a scene? As soon as she moved closer, her mother-in-law grabbed her arm firmly. Mingjun, aren't you well educated? Hurry and check the stove in the kitchen. Where is the baby bottle? Where is the goat milk powder? Get it done quickly. Su Mingjun's face stiffened. She had originally come to be a delicate guest, to enjoy Beiyu's gentleness and the dignity of the matron, not to serve a blind old woman or deal with feces, urine, and farts. Madam, I'm not very good at handling these things. Su Mingjun awkwardly took a half step back. He rushed into the kitchen suppressing his fury, only to be greeted by the cold, icy stove. Usually at this time the house would already be filled with the aroma of meals. The hot water would always be kept warm in the kettle, and his mother-in-law's foot washing water would be ready. But now, the cutting board was empty, and the water in the water jar had run dry. He rummaged through the cabinets and finally found half a bag of goat milk powder in a corner. It was something I bought a few days ago to be prepared for emergencies, and I didn't expect it to really become a lifesaver. By the time he had awkwardly prepared the formula, the child was crying so hard he seemed on the verge of suffocating. Su Mingjun wanted to reach out to take the child, but the little hands waving at the child tangled her carefully combed hair, and she gasped in fright, then drew her hand back. "Can you hold a baby properly?" He Beiyu's voice carried impatience. Frowning at Su Mingjun for the first time, Su Mingjun's eyes filled with red, and she whispered in grievance, "Beiyu, this is the first time I've seen this kind of scene too. When my sister-in-law was here before, I wasn't allowed to interfere with any of this." This sentence reminded Beiyu, yes. When Lin Xiao was here, when had the family ever been in such a mess? He glanced at the wall clock. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening. If it were normal times, he would be eating steaming noodles, listening to Lin Xiao report the family's expenses. And now, he was sweating all over. The child in his arms had just taken a couple of sips of milk before spitting all over him. His mother-in-law was still cursing on the floor, and even because she couldn't see the way, she kicked over the porcelain shards that had been broken earlier. "It hurts so much. It hurts so much. Beiyu." Lin Xiao deliberately threw shattered bowl fragments. The phrase, "Lin Xiao deliberately threw the broken bowl fragments on the ground to stab me." My mother-in-law clutched her foot and screamed in agony. Let's translate. "Damn it. It hurts so badly. Beiyu." Lin Xiao deliberately threw shards of a broken bowl on the ground to stab me. Grandma screamed, holding her foot. Beiyu looked at the mess on the ground, and for the first time a feeling of panic welled up in his heart. He always felt that I was his appendage, that once separated from him Lin Xiao would have nowhere to go. But he forgot that in addition to being his wife, I am also the only technician in the entire military district who can repair that old communications system. Where can she go? Isn't she just going back to her parents' house? Beiyu pacified his mother-in-law while gritting his teeth, thinking, tomorrow I'll go to the Lin family to seize the people and see how she ends this. At this moment, I was sitting under the desk lamp at the military district guest house, flipping through the latest frequency spectrum. I didn't go back to my parents' home, my patriarchal and misogynistic family, which in a past life had sold me cleanly for the little dowry Beiyu gave. This life, I had long written a letter of severance to my family, and I quietly concealed the news of the transfer order as well. Engineer Lin, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The chief supervisor will be waiting in the office for you. The guesthouse waiter knocked and reminded me. Got it. Thanks. I set down my pen and glanced at the watch on my wrist. At this time, Xiaohu should be having diarrhea. That child has a naturally delicate stomach. The goat milk powder must be mixed with 1/3 warm boiled water, and a digestive medicine tablet must be added. Su Mingjun doesn't know, and Beiyu wouldn't understand either. Tonight, the He family is doomed to be a sleepless night, and I want to sleep a good sleep in this rare quiet that I could not obtain in my past life. At 8 in the morning, I opened the door to the chief engineer's office at the Military District Research Institute on time. Comrade Lin Xiao, you're finally here. Chief Engineer Old Feng pushed up his thick glasses and pointed at a stack of chaotic spectral data on the table. This set of microwave frequency modulation equipment introduced from the elder brother has been down for 3 days. The whole regiment's communications drills are waiting for its revival. See if you can bite through this hard bone. I took the data sheets, my fingers gliding over the familiar characters, a surge of long-lost excitement rising in my heart. In my past life, to take care of Beiyu's blind mother and the noisy child, I had wasted my skills in the kitchen. When Beiyu achieved success and brought Su Mingjun back, he once mocked me. Lin Xiao, besides washing clothes and cooking, what else can you do? You can't even understand a prose piece Mingjun wrote. Now, I want to straighten things out with these hands. Chief Engineer Feng, this isn't just an issue of old equipment, it's that the resonant cavity's frequency has drifted, and with the environmental humidity exceeding the standard, it causes impedance mismatch. I didn't waste words. I picked up a pencil and sketched on the drawing, saying, give me 12 hours. I'll recalibrate. While I was buried among the complex circuit boards and solder wires, Bayu appeared at my parents' door with 2 dark circles under his eyes. He had expected I would, as before when I went home to complain, hide behind the door waiting for him to give me a step up. But instead, my older brother Lin Dezhuang greeted him with a loud mouthful. Bayu, do you still have the nerve to look for Lin Xiao? She wrote to the family half a month ago saying she's cutting ties with us. She said you've got another woman in your heart, and told her to F off. So, since there's no one to take care of that blind old mother of yours, you thought of my sister again. Lin Dezhuang may be a scoundrel, but he hates cutting off their money-making route even more. The letter of severance I sent back home completely shattered their idea of feeding off us. And of course they wouldn't look upon me favorably. Bayu got a noseful of ash in the heavy rain, and returned to the compound covered in mud. Pushing open the door to the family courtyard, a sour, rancid smell hit him. Beibao, you're back. Su Mingjuan's hair was a mess. The little tiger in her arms cried until his throat was completely hoarse, only faint sobs remaining. A few unwashed bowls were piled on the table, with flies crawling across them. Lin Xiao, what about her? Didn't bring her back. Grandma sat on the Kong edge, her foot injured and not treated, swollen like a big steamed cake, angrily patting her thigh. Did she die outside? What time is it now? No one's even making hot porridge. She didn't return to her parents' home. Bayu, exhausted, removed his military cap and watched the scene in front of him, his temples pounding harder. Meng Jun, how can you not even cook porridge? The baby is crying like this, don't you know how to change a diaper? Su Mingjuan's eyes welled up with grievance and tears kept falling. Bayu, that diaper is full of runny stool. I just touched it and I vomited. And this fire, I can't start it no matter what. The smoke makes my eyes hurt. I thought you would be able to bring sister-in-law back very soon. That's enough. Bayu slapped the table hard. She was summoned away, not ran away from home. I just went to the Youth League's personnel department and they said she has been assigned to a classified mission. And even I don't have permission to check her coordinates. This message slapped Bayu in the face with a loud, resounding blow. He had always thought I was a subordinate who could be discarded at will, summoned when needed. But reality told him, without that family, I am a professional talent cared for by the military district. And without me, he wouldn't even know how to get by smoothly. Late night. Inside the Research Institute's laboratory, I set the soldering iron down, massaged my aching neck. The originally chaotic waveform on the display finally leveled into a smooth straight line, and the crisp signal tone echoed through the empty room. Frequency modulation successful. Frequency error within plus or minus 001. I wrote the final stroke in the logbook. Chief Engineer Feng pushed the door open, eyes full of surprise. Excellent. Excellent. Lin Xiao, your talent, cooped up in that residential courtyard as a family member, is simply wasted. I've already filed a report with the military region, officially appointing you as the technical lead of the Special Communications Group. Lin Gong, your new life begins. I took the warm water handed to me by Chief Engineer Feng and looked out at the pitch-dark night sky. At the end of that darkness, Bayu was clumsily washing the diapers that had piled up all day, and Su Mingjun was quietly drying her tears in the west room because of her mother-in-law's nitpicking and the baby's cries. This is only the beginning. I will climb to a height that Bayu can only look up to, so that he will see how his so-called true love gradually withers in trivial suffering, and understand what priceless treasure he had carelessly discarded. The days of the He family, in the third week after Su Mingjun moved in, had completely shifted from poetic beauty to a mess of chaos. I was sitting in an independent office in the Army Region Randi department, holding a newly approved design drawing for a special Y-band module. Chief Engineer Feng personally brought me 2 bottles of Hongtashan brand canned tea as a reward for leading the team to overcome the difficulties in this period. Meanwhile, Bayu stood in his own yard, frowning at the dirty clothes scattered all over the ground. Mingjun, this child's vomiting clothes have piled up for 3 days already, and with the heat today a whole ward of flies has gathered. Won't you wash them a bit? Bayu tried to lower his voice as much as possible, but his fatigue was hard to hide in his tone. Su Mingjun sits on the doorstep, several band-aids stuck to her delicate fingers. and her eyes are red and swollen like 2 walnuts. Bayu. It's not that I won't wash. It's because of my hand. Yesterday I brewed medicine for Granny. The medicine jar exploded, and my hand was burned all over with blisters. Granny also scolded me for being inattentive, saying I deliberately wanted to burn her to death. Her eyes can't see. Her temper is bad. You please be more tolerant. He let out a sigh, and a sidelong glance caught sight of the clean diapers still not collected on the West House windowsill, and that ember of irritation in his heart burned hotter and hotter when Lin Xiao was around. Not to mention flies. Even the gaps in the floor were spotless. Every day after work he came home to hot meals on the table. A clean child. And even his mother-in-law was waited on properly. Back then he thought all of that was natural, and even believed that Lin Xiao, this country woman, with no education, could only do these menial chores. But now, this cultured white moonlight, Su Mengjun can only write 2 slice-of-life poems. And even the most basic fire-making and cooking can be made to look chaotic and smoky. Bayu, come in. From the inner room came Grandma's piercing shout. What porridge did Su Mengjun give me to drink? It's full of sand. Does she want to poison this blind old woman to monopolize your salary? Bayu looked inside and found the rice porridge Su Mengjun made wasn't rinsed clean at all. Grandma, spitting out the sand in her mouth, patted her thigh and cursed. Where is Lin Xiao? Didn't you say she went on a mission? How long has it been? Does she really not intend to take care of this home anymore? Grandma grabbed Bayu's hand with unnerving strength. You go to the army to see their leaders and tell them she abandoned her husband and child, neglects her duty, and make her hurry back to work. Bayu's face turned ashen. He had obviously been there, but the R&D department is a confidential unit. As soon as a regiment commander reached the gate, a sentry blocked him, saying, Engineer Lin is in seclusion to conquer core technologies. No one is to be disturbed. The title, Lin Gong, stabs at his heart like a needle. That day, Bayu received a notice from the group. The regional commander would come to inspect the practical demonstration of the Special Communications Battalion, and he must lead the team to ensure the security. In the exercise field, Bayu changed into a neat military uniform, trying to regain some of his former prestige. But when that originally old communications vehicle slowly rolled onto the field, the previously noisy interference sounds vanished without a trace, and the clear and precise commands echoed across the entire venue. Not only him, but even the inspecting superior wore a look of surprise. Great. This timing is truly spot on. Bayu, your team has made a great contribution this time. Who calibrates this equipment? The commander laughed heartily. Bayu awkwardly saluted, reporting to the chief. They are technicians dispatched from the R&D department. Is that Comrade Lin Xiao? The family member of your group? The chief patted his shoulder, full of praise in his tone. Bayu, you have good taste. Comrade Lin Xiao has been awarded a second-class merit this time. Her improved new filter has elevated our military communications to a whole new level. I've heard she's neglected her own family for work, so as a family member you must provide solid logistical support. Bayu stood frozen in place, his heart slammed hard by a hammer. Second-class merit. Lin Xiao. He turned his head and saw a familiar figure standing beside the distant workbench. I was wearing a neat white lab coat, my long hair neatly tied back, bowing my head as I wrote something in a notebook. The sunlight spilled over me, and the composed, professional, even slightly aloof aura was something he had never seen. Su Mengjun also joined the family entourage to watch the excitement. She stood in the crowd, looking at me who was once surrounded by stars, then glanced down at her hands white-tinted by soap bubbles and covered with tiny scars. The little bit of literary elegance she took pride in was as thin as a scrap of waste paper in the face of real-time skill and real merit. Lin Xiao. Bayu unconsciously took a step forward, wanting to call my name. I heard. I looked up slightly, and with a gaze that cooled from several dozen meters away, I swept past him and moved on quickly, as if he were not the husband who shared a bed with me for 3 years, but merely a background board on this training ground. Unobtrusive and dispensable. I turned around and followed the chief toward the command vehicle. with a resolute silhouette that showed not a hint of hesitation. Kobayu was rooted to the spot, listening to the soldiers around him praising Engineer Lin, and thinking of the lingering rancid smell at home and his mother-in-law's accusations. A huge panic and remorse finally overwhelmed him like a tide. At the celebratory banquet after the drill, I became the center of everyone's toasts. Engineer Lin, I toast you. If you hadn't recalculated that set of band impedance, we would have shown a terrible face in front of the chief. The deputy battalion commander of the communications regiment spoke loudly, his eyes filled with admiration. I raised my cup politely and returned the gesture. It's all part of the job. Everyone cooperated well. Just as he was speaking, a commotion came from the end of the seats. Bayu, wearing that somewhat wrinkled military uniform, was carrying the crying and fussing Xiaohu in his arms, and he barged in with heavy and light steps. Behind him followed Su Mengjun, who was panting and trying to pull on his sleeve while wiping, but he slapped her hand away. The room fell silent in an instant. Dozens of pairs of eyes were all fixed on the captain, who was usually so imposing but now looked incredibly helpless. Lin Xiao. Bayu's voice was hoarse and trembling. He strode up to me, and the child in his arms, overwhelmed by the change of environment, cried more heart-wrenchingly. The child is sick, 39 degrees fever. The doctor says we need to admit him for observation. There's no one at home to take care of him. You go back with me. I put down the teacup, raised my eyelids, and looked at him once. That gaze was as calm as a mirror, reflecting his current fear and incompetence. Head Tuan, I think you've got it wrong. First, we've already signed a separation agreement, and I've also submitted the divorce report to the organization. Second, I'm now the technical team leader of the R&D department, in the middle of a crucial mission. You brought your family to intrude on the military celebration. This is against the rules. What rules? I'm your husband. Bayu lowered his voice, veins protruding on his forehead. Mom is at home threatening to hang herself, saying Su Mengjun can't even boil a medicine. Almost set the house on fire. The child is crying so much. Don't you have a heart at all? Before I could speak, the chief engineer phone next to me frowned, slammed the table. Bayu, mind your words and actions. Comrade Lin Xiao is now the Army Region's precious talent. Her hands are for drawing on hot plates, not for wiping your family's ass. You keep saying she has no heart, but when you invited Su Mengjun to move in, did you ever think about Lin Xiao's feelings? Bayu turned red and white, choking. He turned his head to look at Su Mengjun, who stood awkwardly in the shadow of the lamp at this moment, facing the strange eyes of the entire group of soldiers. She wished she could find a crack in the ground to hide in. Bayu, I really tried my best. Su Mengjun sniffled in grievance. Grandma kept insisting on drinking the dumpling soup Lin Xiao made. I couldn't make it, and she hit me with her crutch. Enough. I stood up abruptly, not loud, yet piercingly clear. Bayu, since Su Mengjun is the good medicine you chose, you should know how bitter this medicine is. When a child is sick you see a doctor. When a mother throws a tantrum you see a mediator. You came to me. Besides proving you're a useless wreck who can't manage without a nanny, what else can you prove? Bayu was stunned. He looked at my face, both familiar and unfamiliar, and suddenly realized that the woman before him was no longer Lin Xiao, who would rush about without dignity at his command. Lin Xiao, are you really this ruthless? The hand holding the child trembled. Leader when you first said either endure or move, you were much crueler than me. I bypassed the table, walked straight to him, lowered my voice to his ear and said, remember, this is only the beginning. Su Mengjun's hands that only know how to write poems will have to wash diapers for a lifetime and serve you that eternally unsatisfied mother. Isn't this the result you sought through benevolence? I didn't look at his despairing eyes, turning to Chief Engineer Feng and saying, Old Feng, the data isn't finished yet. I'll go back to the lab first. As I walked out of the hall, I heard Xiaohu crying louder behind me, and Bayu's desperate shouts. The night wind was refreshing, and I took a deep breath, feeling that every pore in my body was filled with smoothness. Back in the laboratory, I dialed the HR office. Hello, I am Lin Xiao. Regarding Comrade Hibayu's previous application for family move-in welfare housing, since we are already filing for divorce, please have the housing withdrawn. Also, I would like to report Comrade Su Mingjuan's illegal occupancy of the family compound. In the previous life, they trod on my flesh and blood to flaunt their love. This life, I want to see them entangled in petty mud, gradually fostering resentment toward each other until the last shred of affection is exhausted. 6 months later, I stood at the gate of the National University of Defense Science and Technology in Beijing, holding an acceptance letter. The autumn breeze swept away the last trace of the stale, corrupt air that belonged to the military county family quarters of that poor mountain village. And Hibayu finally met his retribution. The day before I left, the military region issued the final ruling. Because Su Mingjun was not a military employee, yet had long-term illegal residence in the family housing compound, and there existed improper emotional disputes with Hibayu during their marriage. Technical backbone Comrade Lin Xiao lost heart and left his post. Hibayu was publicly criticized army-wide, and the originally assured promotion for the deputy brigade commander was directly scrapped. He was transferred to the harshest frontier forest farm, responsible for logistics and logging. Lin Xiao, are you really going to the capital? On the platform of the train station, Hibayu stopped me. The crisp military uniform he wore had been replaced with rough work clothes. He looked much thinner, his eye sockets hollow, and his chin full of unshaven stubble. The little tiger in his arms, neglected for a long time, looked thin and jaundiced. Behind him followed Su Mingjun, the former self-proclaimed aloof, white moonlight, now struggling to carry 2 large diaper bags, her hair greasy, and the formerly slender waist now somewhat bent from incessant housework. Lin Xiao, please, I beg you. The child cannot do without a mother. Hibayu's voice was hoarse, carrying a hint of almost pleading humiliation. Su Mingjun wants to leave. She says she can't stand this life anymore and wants to go back to her hometown to rely on relatives. My mother is now bedridden. She can't be left alone. Can you, for the sake of the child, withdraw the divorce application? As long as you come back, I will work my whole life as a cow and horse to compensate you. I looked at him and felt it was ridiculous. Compensate? I calmly asked. Hibayu, what compensation do you offer? You're constantly cursing me, even wanting to beat my blind mother with a crutch, or your self-proclaimed deep love. As for the child, you were the one who said, either endure or move. You personally pinched off her mother's milk and handed her to Su Mingjun. Now Su Mingjun is tired of poverty and wants to run away. And you suddenly remember me. Lin Xiao, why have you become so ruthless? Su Mingjun interjected weakly from the side. Even Bayu is like this. Do you still want to kick him when he's down? I let out a cold laugh, eyes blazing as I fixed them on her. Su Mingjun, aren't you the most devoted to true love? How is it that after serving a blind old lady for only half a year and changing diapers for just half a year, your true love has withered? You once risked everything to win him over, writing those passionate, heartbreaking letters to the core, and now you've gotten your wish. But you want to desert. Su Mingjun was choked, unable to say a word, and shamefacedly bowed her head. Kubayu, let me tell you some good news. I lifted my suitcase. Calm and composed, the Army Region Research and Development Department has formally approved my divorce appeal. Because you have serious issues of conduct, the rights to child custody and property distribution are mine, but I've decided to leave the child to you. Bayu suddenly widened his eyes. You don't want Xiaohu anymore. Flow with your blood. That is your responsibility. I turned and boarded the northbound train. I'm going to pursue my stars and the sea. And you, in that endless forest, guard your paralyzed mother and the crying child. Slowly relive your so-called love. At the moment the train started, I saw Hibayu frantically running after the platform. He shouted my name as he ran, waving the military district notice crumpled in his hand. Su Mingjun screamed from behind. Because she didn't see the path, she tripped over luggage and fell to the ground, face covered in mud. That scene looked like a ridiculous slapstick comedy. I leaned against the soft seat in the carriage, drew out a fully English language copy of Microwave Engineering. The sunlight spilled onto the pages, and also onto the life I was newly reborn into. In the previous life, I died in that dark, damp little hut, listening to them laughing and talking merrily next door. In this life, I make them torture each other in broad daylight, until death do them part. The cruelest revenge in this world is not a clean break, but making you watch with your own eyes as the gemstone diamond you personally shattered shines brilliantly in someone else's hands, while you are left guarding a pile of rotten mud you chose yourself, slowly rotting in the abyss. The locomotive horn sounded. Ahead lies a glorious future, while behind lies irredeemable ruin.